Today is Sunday, October 16th, 2016, and I, Daniel Magdaleno, am here with Susan to conduct an interview about a few of her various life experiences. Susan, please describe your childhood.
My childhood was a wonderful one. I had wonderful parents, wonderful brother and sister. In fact, my whole life has been very special, including the ups and downs, which included all the childhood diseases, measles and mumps and chicken pox and whatever. My brother and I had the regular measles 5 times, and the last time the doctor wouldn't have thought we could except that he had seen it the last time. My sister was lucky she only had it 4 times because she wasn't born when we had them the first time. But anyway, as I said, I've had a wonderful life and a wonderful childhood. I was born in New York. My father was sent back and forth between New York quite often because of his work. And I was born in New York. We moved to Chicago in that area and back to New York. And just before I went out on my own, back to Chicago again. But anyway, it was very interesting. We grew up during Depression times, and you think it's Depression now, but we had to watch their food and watch what we spent and had. We scraped dishes and pans to get every last bit out, and I still do that. And if there's any film in the dish when I'm through with some of my meals, my cat likes it, so he feels quite content. But anyway, when I was 4, we lived in a suburb of Chicago called Maywood, and I think all of you would probably be surprised to know what we did. We didn't have refrigerators then, and we had ice boxes, which were vertical, of course. On the bottom was a big box or container, whatever, where the ice was put, and up above you put your food. And we enjoyed. They didn't have all the motorized trucks now. We enjoyed following the Iceman, who rode in a horse-drawn wagon, and he chipped ice from the big blocks of ice so that he could put however much ice we wanted in the box. And we followed him and enjoyed the ice chips from it. And the other thing, I guess you have squirrels where you are too, probably, do you?
Yeah.
My dog likes them, is quite intrigued by them now. But anyway, the area had the milk delivered, and it wasn't homogenized like it is now. The cream would be on the top, and of course the rest of the milk settled on the bottom. And my mother had to go out and get it as soon as the milkman came, because the squirrels were quite smart, and they took off those cardboard or paper, whatever you want to call it, tops, and would consume the cream. And that wasn't very satisfactory, so she brought it in. Then also we turned out the lights. My father being an electrical engineer, you turn out the lights when you leave a room. And I still do that. Of course, now it's considered proper. But in most of our activities were outside. We played outside a lot unless the weather was too bad. And obviously, moving back and forth, we never owned a house, but we lived in apartments. And I remember the first one, I was 7 when we first moved to an apartment, except in Chicago, but a real apartment, 6 stories. And of course, when you have trash, you take it out every week, take it out and put it in the trash can. But it would be rather difficult to carry it down up and down the stairs. We had what we called dumbwaiters, and they're like little elevators, I think probably about 4 by 4 or something like that, instead of being closed. So you had to open its door. You had little doors in the kitchen where you open the door, and then when the shelf came to your floor, you'd put your trash out, and they'd take it downstairs. We only lived on the 2nd floor this one time, so it wouldn't have hurt us to walk, but obviously we didn't do that. And there was something else I think is sort of special. The fire escapes. When you live in houses, you can usually have at least a front door and a back door. right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had fire escapes, and well, they're like little patios outside a window. They would obviously they'd go up and down, and they'd go out. There'd be one for each floor or each set of apartments going up and down, and they were little platforms, but they were um, fenced in. But they had stairways going from one floor to the next, so that if there was a fire, you could get downstairs, get out instead of using the stairway. I wonder if they have any like that here.
I've seen some in like downtown LA in some of the older buildings.
Yes, they would have them in the older buildings, probably.
Yeah, the really old ones, yeah. But the
Yes.
newer ones don't have fire escapes.
I wonder how they get out. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I guess you just use the inside stairs.
And then, as I said, we moved back and forth, and when my folks moved back to Chicago, I had planned before he was transferred to Chicago the last time, I had planned on going out on my own, because I think most young people want to do that. And I didn't know where to go, because we were on the East Coast. And so I opened a map and closed my eyes and pointed. And the largest city near where I pointed was Denver. So after going back to Chicago for a year or two, whichever it was, I moved to Denver and stayed at they don't have it now, it's been torn down or else used for something else, the YWCA residence. And I stayed there for about a year until I got an apartment. And then I had another interesting experience about dryers. You're quite used to dryers, right? Well, the one, I was on the second floor and would take my laundry down to the basement, and they had a little room, probably 4 by 6 feet or 4 by 10 feet probably, or I don't know the size of it, I can't remember, I never measured it. But they had clotheslines from front to back, and you put your clothes on the clothesline, and then you went went outside the room and closed the door and put a quarter in. I think it was a quarter, something like that, and that would turn the gas on, and that would dry the clothes. That's not what they do now. And after I moved to Denver, I still kept on moving. Pueblo in Colorado, Denver and Pueblo in Colorado, and then I came out to California in '73. I lived in Santa Monica, in Redding, Corona, Paris, and now Buena Park. Do you think that's enough?
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. Isn't
Quite
it?
a few places, yeah.
Oh, and when I went out on my own, when I moved to Denver, I got married. And as a result of that, my special family continued, and I have 3 wonderful children, 3 wonderful girls, and 9 wonderful grandkids, and 1 8.5-month-old great-grandchild. And so I'm very, very lucky. I wouldn't give any of them up for anything. They're all wonderful people.
What was going on in the world at the time?
Well, when I was growing up, we had World War II, and which we entered in, it was 1939, but we entered it in 1941, in December. And my father knew ahead of time, well, he had no way of knowing, but he was sure that there was going to be we were going to be involved in it. And he told my mother that if she wanted to get a piano for me, that we better do it then. So we did. And then when the U.S. Entered the war, they had a selective service, which meant draft for all the men. All the men between 18 and 45 had to enlist and go to their draft board. My brother, of course, did, but his eyesight kept him out of service at that time. The service was for 12 months at a time. And after the war was over, Korea entered the war, or we entered the war with Korea, against Korea. And the only thing I remember about that, besides my brother coming home at the end when his time was up, was he talked about the meals. And I don't think that you'd enjoy them, because he said there were creepy, crawly creatures in it. They were dead by that time, but still, no, it doesn't sound very appetizing. But
Extra protein, though.
Oh, extra protein. I wouldn't want that kind of protein. At least, I guess if we were starving, we would. But there was food rationing, and we had a lot of spam. And guess what's not on my menu anymore?
Spam.
Spam. But we had a lot of beans, and my mother had the most marvelous fixed the most marvelous baked beans anyone could ever want. And I don't have the recipe for it, unfortunately. And then my high school was very patriotic-minded, and they had some land that they divided up into little sections for gardens, and they called them victory gardens. And my father and I walked the 1+ miles to and from the school to with rake and hoe in hand, and we had a wonderful little garden because my father liked gardening especially too. And we went one Saturday to harvest our crop, and someone during the week had totally destroyed the whole thing, which wasn't very nice. But we had the fun of doing it. And the ceasefire, now I've seen on some sites, when I was looking up something else, say that it was August 15th. But the ceasefire and the celebration was on August 14th, 1945, because that was my 18th birthday. And we went down to Times Square and celebrated, so no one can tell me that it was on another date. It was August 14th. And we took a two-decker bus. I know you have those around here, but the special thing about some of those were the tops were open. So we took an open-topped double-decker bus down to Times Square and watched all the celebrations, and then took the bus back to return. But Japan formally, the actual formal surrender was September 2nd in 1945. And that's the most part I remember. Oh, I remember lots of other things, but you wouldn't find them that interesting. They were interesting to me.
Thank you, Susan, for taking the time to participate in this interview.
You're very, very welcome. I'm glad you're not bored. At least I hope you weren't bored with this.
Oh, no, not at all.